Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, we bring you an episode of Nerd Court. Tonight, we are going to discuss Marvel. Is it all that it is made up to be? Are they jumping the shark? Have they missed the target? We have a panel of experts that will debate that tonight in a court setting. We will have no name calling. We will have no speaking out of turn. I will be in charge of keeping order in the court. Steel City Hitch is our judge, and he will have all say on the outcome, whether the case has been made or not. First up on the Marvel side, D.P. Brown and T-Mitch will be the adversary in saying Marvel has missed somewhere. We have our opponents. We know the subject. All rise for Steel City.
Welcome, everybody. Have your seats. Have your seat. Thank you. All right. We'll convene the proceeding of this court, the Nerd Court, as endowed by the Emperor Palpatine. I declare the Nerd Court now in session. On the docket today, what do we got, bailiff?
We have a case in front of us, Your Honor, which spans decades of harm, apparently, to society, as one of the forefathers of nerddom, Marvel, dating back to the 50s, 60s, giving us superheroes of various sorts and have made its way into modern society in the year 2022. Mm-hmm. We have two gentlemen that feel that they've kind of missed the mark now and are sort of rolling on the coattails of the past successes. A very complicated case, sir. I don't know how you're going to come up with an answer to this.
Well, that's what this show is all about, and I just want to say thank you very much for the warm introduction, bailiff, and you look like a tray of buttered biscuits. Thank you so much. You look just delicious tonight. So moving on, and I think the best thing to do here is probably to introduce the state's witness, the state, to go ahead and begin this process. We're going to start with opening statements. The counts are as follows. Count 1, the Marvel Universe is underperformed in Phase 4. And count 2, The Batman would be the best of the MCU movies if it wasn't Phase 4. These counts are serious. This is a life or death matter. We take things very seriously here in the Nerd Court. And that's why I'm here to remind you that you should check out our website, www.nerdcyclopedia.com, and send us feedback by sending it to nerds@nerdcyclopedia.com. And look, we've got a Facebook group for our Carbonite Bounty BS show, the show where we talk about Star Wars, the other show where I let T-Mitch do most of the talking. We split that stuff up. So check that out. And that's just a real quick overview of what else we have. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce the prosecution, T-Mitch, to begin opening statements. T-Mitch?
As far as my opening statement, Your Honor, I just want to first off say I just feel without a shadow of a doubt that since Endgame, and I will go as far as pre-Endgame, that the MCU has just wholeheartedly mugged us off. I mean, based on various statements I have, various evidence, that I just feel that they've underperformed in what they delivered, not only numbers-wise, but fan-wise. I mean, I'll leave that up to the jury to make their decision based on what I present. But I just feel that, the credit has ran out, so to speak, and I just feel like they're riding the coattails of past projects. And, as good as it is, it needs to be brought to light that it can do a lot better. And I just feel that they're shortchanging too many corners.
Okay, thank you very much. Defense?
First of all, I want to thank you, Your Honor, for, introducing us today. You looking very well.
I appreciate that too, very much.
Yeah,
thank you.
Absolutely. You too, bailiff. Thank you for, joining us. So
Yeah.
so I'm here to present my argument and defense on the phase of the MCU. Okay, from the first phases all the way up until phase 4. All right. So it's been a some complaints about how this phase 4 has been going so far, and I'm here to present the argument that people have revisionist history, so they look at things one way, and they don't really remember how things were before they got to this point. So I'm here to present that argument in defense of phase 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, prosecution. Well, I believe we'll proceed to your case. So the first count of the indictment, it has disappointed in the wake of Endgame.
So yes, Your Honor. I mean, just based on first off factual data, Endgame has been obviously Marvel's highest-grossing movie. Most some would say most successful movie. Just based on past projects alone from Endgame, I mean, if we're using a general rule of all the MCU of a 500% return on the movie, I mean, every movie past that has grossed substantially less. Um, on top of that, it's been known in Marvel in these past movies have been not only trying new stories, but also trying to captivate an audience that just hasn't shown up. When we look at past projects and who the projects catered towards, it catered towards a demographic in which it reached, and the box office numbers showed that these last projects, excluding even Disney Plus stuff, has not even turned up remotely close to those rules outside of Spider-Man. So yeah, as far as where we are, as far as numbers wise, I mean the numbers speak for themselves. The project, even our latest project here, as of less than a month ago, is not on par where it should be, and that is arguably its highest profile actor in place as well. Uh, just I just don't understand how we figure that these movies are on par. Not to mention, I don't even think Black Widow just made budget. Um, Granted, that was in a an economic hardship. We take the movie for what it was. I mean, the numbers are there.
Okay, so specifically, we're talking about the economic success here. Now, I do want to go ahead and allow a rebuttal statement from the defense on this count. So I will go ahead and ask this question then to the defense. What is there to be said about the box office numbers in the wake of Endgame, and what is there to be said about what the standard is that was set by Endgame?
Well, first of all, there's no way you can have an in-game level event movie after movie. That's virtually impossible. I mean, to even present the argument that the in-game level box office for movies after that was lower or less than what in-game made, it's just absolutely ridiculous. The MCU is going to have to go smaller to prime the pump to build back up to get back to that in-game level. It's just straight ridiculous to expect movie after movie to either go beyond what Endgame did or just maintain that level, because you had a big crossover event that had to get built up to this point, and you're going to have a come down. It's like going into that high, and then all of a sudden you have a come down, and then you got to rev back up. You got to ramp back up and get built back to that. So that's what we're seeing right now in the phase 4 period. Phase 4 position. People have revisionist history, as I said in my opening statements. You go back to the first phase, and you didn't have that same, in-game level type stuff. You had to build these characters. Marvel had, they didn't have the rights to like Spider-Man, to like their biggest, characters, X-Men and everything. They had to go with B-list characters that nobody even knew or cared about, besides Marvel fans, such as Iron Man, such as Thor, such as Captain America and everything. Sure, they were known to the American conscience and everything, but they never had like successful movies. We had like a trash Captain America back then. We barely had like a Thor and Iron Man movie. We just was getting an Iron Man movie. And we barely had a good Incredible Hulk after that first Ang Lee debacle that came out before then. So they had to revitalize and do that all over. So they had to build these characters, number one, to get to that first Avengers level. Okay. Then and then you had to slowly build from there to get to that event, to that in-game level event. So what we're seeing right now with the MCU Phase 4, we're seeing like a build back up. So got to get the character. We got to get the characters in there first before we get back to that in-game level event.
Your Honor, may I object? So, based on what DP has just said, let's look at the numbers of his character, so to speak.
Okay.
Doctor Strange, box office outperformed 6 times, first time movie. Captain America 6 times. Ant-Man 5 times. Black Panther 7 times, leading up to Infinity War. Ant-Man 6 times. Captain Marvel 8 times. We had our Endgame level event. Then we move into Black Widow. We'll call that a push. Shang-Chi just barely made it over budget. Eternals barely doubled their budget. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse up 3 times. Thor barely up 2 times. Spider-Man has been a performing project, and No Way Home was a performing project. And then we have, so the only 2 movies would be Spider-Man. Okay? Far From Home and No Way Home. Every other project has not performed anywhere close. So if we're saying we're building these stories up, the numbers aren't even there to even support this. And arguably, Spider-Man would be its biggest property, and I would say Thor, as an original Avenger, would be a major property that has not even lived up to any kind of performance. Outside of even we can pull Rotten Tomato scores and show, as a credible source, that movie recently has not performed. I'm pretty sure we discussed this as well with the defense that movie wasn't the hottest. But you're right, we're building up for sure.
Okay, taking on the narrow objection of that you object to the financial numbers as being listed as being successful by DP. Okay, so defense, I'm going to allow you to speak to this objection. So what can you tell me? Is there any other, I don't know, contextual information that I should have as a jurist here about other things that are going on after Endgame?
Well, okay, I can actually just reach back to Phase 1. So Iron Man, when the Phase 1 Iron Man first came out, it hit the ground running. MCU is just hitting its stride after years and years of trying to get things together, back to Marvel, back to controlling his own characters. You had Phase 1 Iron Man making like 585 million, globally. Everything that's global box office. So bam, you had like a running out the gate. MCU is like on track. Second movie came out, The Incredible Hulk, 265 million global box office. So that's your come down right there. So okay, is MCU okay? Yeah, it's Incredible Hulk. So maybe we can look at the fact that another Incredible Hulk movie just came out about a couple years before that. So maybe people are getting Incredible Hulk fatigue. But we still have Iron Man. Okay, Iron Man 2 comes out right after Incredible Hulk. Bam, we shoot right back up. 621 global, million globally. Okay, so we shoot right back up. So okay, maybe we have like a lot of Iron Man fans, maybe not MCU fans, but we have Iron Man fans. But we are building something here. That's what we're building here. Thor, a little come down. Okay, 449 million globally. All right, but we're still building. Okay, the Avengers, the original Avengers, are Thor, Iron Man, Captain America, and also the Incredible Hulk. Okay.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for telling the court who the Avengers are. I appreciate that.
In case the jurist didn't know.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you being considerate for the court, known as the Nerd Court. Thank you so much. Bailiff, what would you say if I told you that there are 2 sides presenting information to me? One is using box office totals, and the other is using ratios to budget. Which one of those is the correct way to measure a box office, Bailiff?
Your Honor, yes, and that's a very good point, and I do see both sides of it. Box office is very important in a social world, a media world that we live in now.
Mm-hmm.
That's really a good measure. It's a good litmus test to see how good is the product. I'd like to hear the defense and the prosecution speak a little bit on content. I feel that
Okay.
the movies that they hit off with phase one, as DP said. Now I'm coming in. I hear a lot of cases, Your Honor. I hear a lot of cases about
We're always
family
hearing cases.
disturbances and domestic problems, and
What?
this is a domestic problem also. So I'm trying to get right here.
Your day
So,
job's wild,
Iron
man.
Man. Yeah, my Iron Man, very good film. I thought the story was engaging. I thought the actors were spot on. You mentioned Hulk. I think there was a miss. I think they missed on characters. I think they missed a little bit on the story. The second one was a lot better. So, can we speak to content a little bit and maybe how Marvel has sort of missed the mark?
I think you've hit on something very important. So this objection is going to be sustained because I think we've come to here's my decision. My decision is that the box office of Marvel movies in the era before Endgame is not necessarily a valid comp to the box office of the movies after Endgame. And when I look and review the facts in this particular matter, I find myself drawn to two facts. One is that the COVID pandemic happened and sort of, really changed how movies were being measured as far as their financials during this time. And I don't know that we have in this court the right information to grasp how that is all done. Secondly, and this is very important. I don't know how would we compare the new Batman to, say, the Dark Knight. Are those eras different enough that they can't be compared? And as such, I think I think that the bailiff is correct, and what we should do is narrow the focus of the question here to the content quality, and is the content quality staying up to snuff? So I think that if the objection is hey, this defense is using information from financial information that's not germane to phase 4, then I would say that objection is sustained.
Okay.
And today's objection sustainment is brought to you by Carbonite Bounty BS. Carbonite Bounty BS, it's a show we're all on where we talk about Star Wars. And Trenton is the show leader. I do all the production on that show, but I don't talk as much. And that is today's Carbonite Bounty BS objection ruling. Carbonite Bounty BS, you need to be watching that show if you're not. Probably because we're making you. That's why we're doing it. All right, so let's talk content. So prosecution, T-Mitch, I want you to tell me about a piece of phase 4 content that underperformed and why.
Well, as far as a piece of phase 4, I mean, content-wise, I will say Shang-Chi underperformed. It's a great story. It engaged me as far as an action um, kind of an event, if you so to speak. But I mean, the story just the development of the characters were too fast. A lot of action, but the story wasn't there. I mean, if we go to the latest movie, Thor, I mean, who those who've seen it, I mean, was that really a movie that had delivered as far as when we talk about, as the defense said, at the build up, phase one, two, three, there was a lot more character development. There's a lot more story. There's a lot more content into this. Granted, the character has been out. The movie missed the mark. Doctor Strange, you know, a lot of people feel like they're starting to cut corners. The movies and but we don't talk about budgets or anything, but the movies and the stories they're telling, it just seems that they're plainly getting cute. I just feel like Spider-Man, there were corners cut there. A lot of we'd say fan service. It's just I just don't know as far as from a fan perspective. these stories they're telling, they just don't have that meat to them. You know, there was a lot of meat, there's a lot of development. Even with these new characters, they're just not doing enough, and they're introducing too many characters. I think in every project we've seen post Endgame, there's been an average of 3 to 4 characters per movie. You can't just simply develop that as far as a movie, right? I mean, let's go down the list if you'd like. For the defense, there's been 3 to 4 characters every movie and every project that they've underdeveloped. How do you develop a movie with not even being able to spend time to develop characters?
Object. So let's keep the focus. Let's keep the focus on, let's keep the focus on where we're really, debating here. We're debating like phase 4. And what I really want to counter is the fact that phase 1 and revisionist history. You hear, Your Honor, you're going to hear a lot of revisionist history from me.
I'll tell you this. If I hear you say phase 1 one more time, I am going to mute you. And I'm going to let T-Mitch, talk as much trash about you as he wants. It's completely unrelated to this case.
Let me
30 seconds.
Let me let you know where I'm going with this. It's a means to ends, okay?
You're on thin ice. You're on thin ice, Mr. DP Brown.
Okay, I apologize. Okay.
You've been warned once.
Bailiff, I want you to restrain him if he does it again.
Okay. All right. So I am going back to phase 1. All right. So Incredible Hulk.
You better be coming back pretty fast.
If Baylor pointed out, that was a mediocre movie. Okay. Iron Man 2, way mediocre movie. It's been a lot of divisive, commentating on Iron Man 2. Thor, the original Thor movie by Kenneth Branagh, mediocre movie. Captain America is probably the only, highlight of that movie. Let's fast forward to phase 4, which is akin to phase 1 to me. Okay. So we start all over after Endgame. We're building back up, which is, like I said, a recurring theme. So you got Spider-Man Far From Home, knock it out the park, right out the back. Really great, really good movie and everything. Black Widow was a little bit of a come down. Okay. Shang-Chi, was a bit of a comeback for that summer. Okay. It was coming off like the back of Black Widow. Shang-Chi was a new character, doesn't have the great history that Iron Man, Thor, Captain America has, Incredible Hulk has. So Shang-Chi was already on had to build up his stance in order to really resonate with folks. Had a lot of really great action scenes. The story, was good for, a few hours. And then coming on the third act, got a little shaky. But that's what happens with all the third acts of majority of like Marvel's movies. Okay. Eternals, it was sort of like a letdown. Sort of like how that Thor from phase 1 was a little bit of a letdown. So they're sort of like paralleling. Okay. So then we have like Spider-Man No Way Home. We knock it right back up. Doctor Strange, okay. Thor, Love and Thunder, okay. So we're still talking about okay movies from the phase 4 period. So we're not even talking about like, the Disney Plus stuff, which still goes hand in hand.
You don't want to talk about that.
Phase 4 is trying to do. We have pretty good ratings for like, Wanda, WandaVision. You got to give like a pass to Falcon and Winter Soldier because, as Your Honor said, COVID happened. It sort of wrecked the whole storyline of that, and they had to still patch stuff together. Still had good elements into that, like Isaiah Bradley, Captain America and everything. You had Anthony Mack actually at the end turn out to be Captain America. So it actually had its good and crazy elements and everything. But that's the phase 4 portion that I wanted to parallel with phase 1.
Your Honor, it's kind of funny how we forget about Hawkeye. We forget about Miss Marvel that just ended. It's funny
I can only name so much.
How the defense skips it.
Say, Your Honor, can I speak? Can I speak, Your Honor? Can I speak? Okay, yes. Your Honor. So we have a lot of characters being introduced, but what else are you going to do, Your Honor? Okay, they don't have Captain America anymore. Iron Man is gone. Tony Stark is dead. Incredible Hulk, he really doesn't have his own franchise because Universal has the rights and everything. So we can't give him his own movie. So we have to introduce more characters that are C-list, per se, but still have the opportunity to be, more known. So we have Miss Marvel coming out. Okay. We have, as the prosecution says, Hawkeye. but with Haley Steinfeld, as the new, Lady Hawkeye, which was real popular in the comics. So you really got like a lot of these newer, Marvel characters such as Miss Marvel, the newer Hawkeye. You got like some Moon Knight, to a degree that wasn't really related to like, a lot of it didn't connect to a lot of MCU other stuff, but it's still part of it. Okay. So you still got like some new characters coming out to get people acclimated and more known to this, phase 4. Okay. So what else are you going to do? You can't have an in-game level event after phase 4. That just doesn't make any sense. You need time, just as they did with the first 3 phases, to still, build up to that level. And when they announced that what directions they were going in at the San Diego Comic-Con, we're going to end with the Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars. Okay, they're telling you we got some place we're going to go with these characters that we're introducing. So revisionist history, as I said once before, what you're seeing right now is impatience among fans to get what you got during like the last in-game stages. Fans tend to want to rewrite history and claim everything the MCU put out during its first phase was a bona fide hit. That is not the case. Okay. So everything was just, okay to a degree until the Avengers came out. Then everybody, it was the first time in history that a franchise from three different franchises got put together into one franchise. Nobody ever did that in history. So how are you going to duplicate that same thing again and expect the same thing? That's just not going to happen unless DC does it. DC tried to do it, but they rushed, with Justice League after Batman versus Superman. Okay. And then they just, okay, we'll get into, the Batman stuff.
Yeah, please, Your Honor.
No, we will not be discussing the DC universe. We will not. That is the DC. The DCU is for another time and another whole trial all to its own. Most likely with the roles reversed between the two of you. That's just how it's going to be. We're not going to cover it here. Your point is taken, defense, about what is the goal of phase 4, right? What is it trying to do? I am willing to accede the point, prosecution, unless you can convince me otherwise.
I will.
Okay, I'm sure you will. I mean, you're very confident man. And if you think, DP, that he is not kissing my, look what he's actually wearing. I mean, yeah, he didn't say I look great, but he's actually wearing my name, a shirt with my name on it. I mean, what? I don't know how more butt kissy that could be. So prosecution, my question to you here is if we're correct and the point of phase 4 was to introduce the new stuff for phase 5, how has phase 4 failed to do that?
Well, as we went back to phase 1, if we're using phase 4 as a reset, there are characters in here that weren't reset characters. So first off, the majority of the characters in the stories were not old characters. They're not new characters. Black Widow was not a new character. Shang-Chi was. Spider-Man was not. Doctor Strange was not. Thor, arguably one of its biggest characters, is not. They're not performing. And it seems that the defense loves to go back to phase 1, but forgets phase 2 and 3, like they didn't exist. I mean, we're leading, and when I'm talking about the failure, I'm not talking about leading up to the in-game level event. What I'm just talking about from a purely movie standpoint. They just don't deliver where they were. I mean, I feel like they're cutting corners as far as what they're doing. We look at Civil War. That was a big movie when we want to go back to the past, even though I didn't want to go there. I don't see a Civil War type movie there. We can go down the list of movies that were successful that I have not seen in phase 4 yet.
Objection, Your Honor. Objection.
Yes.
If we're talking about phase 4 as like, akin to phase 1, how can we see the future, Your Honor? Okay. We're not in yet for, phase 5 and 6 yet. So how can we see into the future and expect, okay, I don't see, a Civil War type of thing. Okay. Who's trying to duplicate Civil War? Okay.
Civil War was a Captain America movie.
Hold on, T-Mitch. I am gonna overrule this objection. You have specifically made the productive connection between phase 1 of Marvel being the setup phase and phase 4 being the setup phase, that frankly, I think if I were to uphold your objection, your entire case would collapse. So I'm not going to hold up your objection because there's a lot more show that we got to fill here, and frankly, I'm not willing to cut it yet. So I'm gonna say objection overruled. Back to the prosecution.
Yeah, but I mean, as we're arguing these points, I mean, okay, we're going to say we're talking about previous phases. So from a fan's standpoint, we pay to see these projects. We're going to give them money, right? So if we're 4 years into the league as an athlete or whatever, 4 years into our job, isn't there a certain level and expectancy from a nerd to expect a quality movie? Like, we pay money, good money to see these. They pay these people good money to make these movies. So for you to sit here and say like, "Oh, we need to build back up," I fully get we need to get build back up. I understand that we're introducing new stories, but these new stories we're introducing are not hitting the mark. I mean, and I'm not talking from a box office standpoint. I would like the defense to tell me outside of Spider-Man a movie that he saw and he was like, oh yeah, that really I can understand that. I like that. I mean, I'll sit here and let him speak to what has hit outside of Spider-Man that really was a movie to be like, oh yeah, I understand where we're going, because none of them has done anything.
I mean, what else? If I'm making my arguments based on how things are building back up, to say okay, other than Spider-Man is always going to hit. It's Spider-Man and everything. You know, people are just getting to know these characters. Okay. If Shang-Chi or Eternals or Black Widow even comes out with an additional movie, depends on what they actually do. They might actually hit that additional that movie. We had Thor: The Dark World back in phase 2. Be like total trash. But what came after that? Thor Ragnarok, total hit. Okay, so to discount these characters that are actually being introduced and expect them to hit on the first try, that is just like a misnomer, and it's not fair to the characters and to faces actually take a chance. We might as well do like DC stuff and just quit while we're ahead. As soon as something fails, let's just throw up our arms. No, we can't do that. So Shang-Chi, deserves like another chance. It did okay at the box office. It did okay, review-wise and everything. It wasn't a failure. Okay. You talk about things that aren't hitting with a certain sect and everything. I don't know if we're supposed to have everything just fit everybody. So the purpose of everything that's actually coming out now is to hit certain angles. We're getting like more diversity as far as characters. We're getting more diversity as far as like subjects and everything. We're getting more diversity as far as like backgrounds. Now, is a Miss Marvel fan supposed to be the same fan as like a Doctor Strange fan? Okay, I don't know. If they're an MCU fan, they will like everything. But a Miss Marvel fan, maybe a younger, more lower, more of a younger demographic may find like the stuff in Doctor Strange on the multiverse, into the multiverse or whatever, is something more horror based. Something that adults may feel that that's not suitable for kids. That's different from Mrs. Marvel. Okay. So, you got diversity at the forefront where it wasn't that way with like the first few phases with the MCU.
I mean, I completely agree with adversity, but the bigger miss here, as we discussed, is the stories. It's not the characters at all. I'm happy with the characters. I understand Miss Marvel. I understand that, and I understand that the MCU is taking us to other places in the world. I mean, case in point, a lot of people said that Shang-Chi was a South Asian Black Panther. That was an original story. I mean, there's a lot to say about the stories, not the characters, the way these stories are written and they're put on the big screen. I mean, as we talk about, credit runs out so at some point. We can't just say, oh, because of past history that this is what it is. Because as on past history, from phase 2 on, I would expect these movies and I would expect the people producing these movies to come out with better product. It's not the character's fault. It's not the actor's fault. Is it a screenwriter's fault, or as I said, are they just getting a little too cute and giving us similar stories? I mean, Shang-Chi was a similar story to Black Panther. Miss Marvel
Was it though?
I want to talk about this. This is an interesting pause. So DP. So this is a pretty specific allegation. So I'm going to give you some leeway to talk about it. So why don't you give us a little rebuttal then? Why don't you tell us some of the differences? Maybe I'll make it easier. Just tell us some of the differences between Black Panther and Shang-Chi. And go ahead.
And it'd be nice. Be nice.
Well, I see Moses over there in the chat. He was talking about, the CGI in this phase is like, kind of rush and everything. Is if we compare it to, Black Panther, I to me look at it as on like the same level. In fact, maybe a little better, than what we seen in like, Black Panther. Black Panther's a whole different type of, just a whole different set, of story. Maybe you got some of the story beats that are, a little bit similar, but it still has, different backgrounds, different, characters that we that we take to. That's just totally different, period, and it's not going to hit the same as what people anticipated with the Black Panther character coming up. Black Panther has like a well-established history that Shang-Chi just could not touch. Shang-Chi started out as like sort of like a more of a stereotypical type of character that we seen in like Asian culture that eventually got its own identity and everything that it had to build. Whereas Black Panther came right off the bat, not as stereotypical, if you want to call it that. So to really compare those two movies, you could really say like a lot of the MCU has a lot of the same story beats, period. So to try to to specify those particular movies, it's sort of unfair to both of those movies as a whole.
Okay.
Why wasn't the story as good then?
So hold on.
So that's subjective.
I'll have order in my court. I'm the only one that will be issuing a witty rejoinder, Mr. Prosecutor. Mr. Bailiff. Mr. Bailiff.
Yes, sir.
I want you to restrain. I want you to make sure this doesn't happen again. I won't have outbursts in my courtroom. This isn't the Alex Jones trial. All right. So now I think it's only fair. It's only fair for since DP had to be nice and tell us some similarities. It's only fair for T-Mitch to get to be mean and tell us some ways these movies were the same. Go ahead.
I mean, the way it was shot was very similar. As far as we go to Mikal, we have the little, hip hoppy scenes, And granted, these are taking people to cultures and places that we've never been. But I mean, the way that they lay the characters out, brother sister, the dynamic there, the tag along character, the way the families fought. I mean, to some extent, very similar as far as the way they were laid out. I mean, granted, it's hard to directly compare these, but the way these movies were portrayed from the storylines, they're similar. Now, granted, Black Panther. Oh, also we can tie this. I'm sorry, another way, Your Honor. They both use the same mythic powers from a realm. So how are they not interconnected? They're both realm characters. They're not really we call mutants, and they're not necessarily direct superheroes, but their powers come from the same realm. They don't come from the multiverse. So how would they not be interconnected? They both share the same realm. They share the same realm also, as we found out, as Miss Marvel. Actually, any kind of character that the Marvels would have from their powers. So yeah, they all share the same realm, so they would have to be judged the same way. Their powers come from the same area.
DP, do you have any rebuttals to anything T-Mitch said there when he was listing the similarities, or are we pretty much?
I mean, that's almost like saying, okay, these characters have superpowers, are they all movies? So, I mean, come on now.
I'm just stating that.
They have similar realms and stuff. I mean, Thor deals with like the 9 realms and everything. So, I mean, it's just a different realm. So, so I mean, what kind of similarity argument is that? It's all stuff. So what you're gonna have like crazy sci-fi realmy type stuff.
Okay, I'm gonna say that there was, for me, enough differential, and I don't feel like it was sort of repackaged with Orientalism the way that the comic book Shang-Chi, you know what I mean? Because I think that's a valid critique of comic Shang-Chi, but I think they did enough to make me feel they were different. Let's talk more. Let's talk something germane, and I want to do. I'm going to give you each sort of a time to make your argument on which one of these things is the case, and then I'm going to give you each a rebuttal. So we're going to do 2 of these. So first, we're going to start. We're going to start with the prosecution, as these things always do. Prosecutor T-Mitch, since we're starting with you, and you are indicting the Marvel MCU, I would like for you to tell me what piece of Phase 4 was the best. You don't have to tell me it was great. I'm not asking you to tell me it's an A+, but just which is the best. What's the best thing? If I were to only watch one piece of Phase 4, what would it be?
I think the best Phase 4 project would probably be Spider-Man: No Way Home. I mean, it's really the cultivation of a character. The story told a full story. We had our beginning. We've obviously had um, points to where you could have split the movie into two parts. We discussed on previous NCFSs. Um, I just felt, as far as a project in a whole, the way the story was laid out, the way it told, it basically was a story that gave you that kind of Endgame-esque feel. You know, you had that major production feel for this to be a singular movie, to have all that in there, um, and that to be a part of this. To me, that would, if you were to see that movie, that would spur you on to see these other projects, which in turn, which would make, I would consider a lot of people in the chat as well. If you saw that movie and you thought this is how this is going to kick off, and then this is went the rest of the way, you're going to tell me that you'd be happy with the rest of the projects as that being the starter to this phase.
Okay, DP, same question to you. What's the best one?
I would agree. Far, No Way Home. Far From Home. What is it? I can't even remember the movie. The last Spider-Man with all three Spider-Man pointing at each other. That was the best one.
Far From Home.
Yeah, Far From Home. Yeah.
Yeah, Far From Home. Okay, so that was the best movie. No, not Far From Home. No Way Home. No Way.
It's No Way Home.
No Way Home was see these homes. I mean, it's crazy. No Way Home with the three Spider-Men. That was the best. That was the best movie. Reason being is exactly what T-Mitch was saying. Told a great story. It was a culmination of like the different eras of Spider-Man, from the Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, all the way up to then. So it was the best movie that told like the best complete story and had like the really great crowd moments, and really got you hyped for seeing like these Spider-Men just come together.
Okay, and defense, which one's the worst? Hey, DP.
Which
are you there? Hello. Hello. Are you address the court when the court addresses you, sir?
I'm sorry.
Bailiff,
Your Honor. Okay.
Punish him. Say something mean about him right now.
Okay.
You know what? I think you're missing something. I would like to hear both defense and prosecution talk about character. So some of the characters that Marvel is kind of delving into right now are kind of missing the boat. You both have made great points about story, but characters. What if Marvel went back to the golden age and brought forward a character, although has been introduced with Fantastic Four? What about Silver Surfer? What about a character that is new and fresh? He comes from space and he comes to Earth, and he has relationships with the Hulk. He has relationships with the Fantastic Four and other characters. And I think Fantastic Four, the movie, did very well. And it was a great story. And if it's on, it's one of those movies that I like sit and watch, even though I've seen it multiple times. I think they need to go back and find something new. So what would you say, DP, to Marvel saying, you know what we're doing right now is trash. Let's bring a new character in. Silver Surfer would be a perfect mainstream event.
So, okay, to be fair with and this is probably just an overall argument, to be fair to what the MCU is putting out now, they did have a lot of rights to their classic characters, or they're just now getting the rights back to their classic characters like Silver Surfer, Fantastic Four, X-Men. They're just getting back Daredevil and everything. So when they put a lot of these characters that they have in the current phase into like the pot, they went with the knowledge that they went with prior knowledge saying, okay, well, maybe we might not have these characters back yet to actually put forth, effort towards. So we got to use these other characters like the C-list characters a lot of people aren't really familiar with, Shang-Chi, Ms. Marvel, et cetera, and everything, because
Dr.
they didn't have the rights back. Who?
Dr. Morbius?
I mean, he's like Sony and everything. So you really didn't. Yeah,
we discussed that this was going to be a Morbius free podcast. We had discussed that. We agreed not to talk about Morbius.
Moses said he agrees.
Oh, we got a peanut gallery, which is great. We love having our viewers.
Man, Moses.
Thanks
Shout out. But yeah, to be fair to Marvel, you didn't have a lot of their classic characters back. Silver Surfer was part of that pack. So unfortunately, they couldn't actually make a movie, in which I think if they did have those characters, we would actually be seeing them on screen right about now. But yet they didn't have the characters, so we have to go with what they have on the board right now. If you go down a list of Marvel characters of classic characters that they have, they've used everything. They've used everything up between Fox, between what they have with the MCU, to what they had with Sony. They use up every classic character that they had. So they have no choice but to go to these other characters to put in this phase. So to bring up about the argument, as T-Mitch keeps bringing up, it's not really hitting. These characters aren't really hitting. If we're going to go to like they did use all the good stuff up. So they have no choice but to wait, with the legal stuff all finished now, to bring these classic characters into other phases. We're going to get Fantastic Four soon. We're going to someday get the X-Men. I'm anticipating, as the bailiff said, Silver Surfer, maybe, coming to usher in Galactus, and have him done right in the MCU, So we're all anticipating these characters. But for right now, this is what they had to work with. And then COVID happened, to delay things even more.
So, Your Honor, as the bailiff had said, based on his argument, bringing these characters in, and I'm sure people in the chat and watching live on Facebook, which we agree, I just want to say that as of right now, I don't have full faith in the MCU, based on what we've seen, that these characters will be a hit. Let's just go back to Thor, which is a recent. This is Chris Hemsworth. This is an A-list actor. This movie missed. We can say what we want. I'm sure DP may. This movie did miss, and it's missed heavily. That's all over the box office numbers. That the Thor has missed. And
Objection. Was Chris Hemsworth the A-list actor back in the first phase?
We're talking about right now.
Okay.
This is a big project. It missed, right?
Overruled.
Okay.
Yeah. First phase credits ran out.
Woo! Ooh, ouch. Ouch.
I'm serious. I mean, like, and this is, this is my point. Like, we keep talking about past credit, but like, when do we hold these studios accountable as fans? Did we pay good money? We've been through the beginning phase. We shouldn't have to. I mean, if we want to do the whole phase 1 to phase 4, then let's just start again with Iron Man. Let's reboot. If we're going to reboot the MCU. If not, if we're going to continue projects and keep building from the Infinity Saga to this Kang Saga, okay, fine, but we've already laid the crumbs. So they have the blueprint on how to start it. Why do we have to reboot and do it like this? I mean, I don't understand the argument as far as like, I get we're introducing new characters like the Silver Surfer, but I don't have full confidence that this character will come out and be a hit based on this phase. We've done new characters that didn't hit. Granted, they weren't legacy characters, but I mean, the proof's in the pudding.
Okay, I got something to say. All right. So, granted, this phase of Marvel has introduced a lot of projects. Mathematically, they're all not going to hit. That's just mathematics there. They're all just not going to hit. They're all not going to be for everybody. They tried to introduce different elements, like I said, diverse, stuff to cater to different audience and stuff. With the Moon Knight, you had like, a lot of Egyptian stuff that I wasn't really particular on, but it hit with some audience members. With the Ms. Marvel, you had like a lot more of a younger demographic, that hit with that, but it wasn't really a hit with the older stuff. You had a lot of people comment that wasn't for me, whatever that means. But that's just, just mathematically with this level of projects coming out, you're going to have like your hits and misses. Everything, we were so used to MCU stuff just hitting, being number one at the box office. And this is the first time we've ever had Disney Plus shows, working in parallel to like what the movies does. So to me, you have to give the MCU a pass, because they have to try stuff. You have to try stuff in order to see what works, in order to see how things can go from here. So if we get the same type of quality, with the phase 5, then maybe you might have like a argument. But right now, everything remains to be seen, because to me, it's like throwing stuff up against the wall, and trying to see what actually, okay, what's hitting, what's not. I mean, it's a thing.
Okay. Oh, that's pretty close to a closing argument for both of you guys, that I'm going to go ahead and let that stand on the record. Before we move on to me, deciding, which is what I was called here by you to do, decide. I want to ask the bailiff if he has any final thoughts.
Your Honor,
it could be on anything here. I don't care. It could be. I don't care if it's on the MCU.
I think both sides have brought forth very valid arguments on the case. I think the prosecution focused a lot on numbers, money, volume. I think the defense focused a little bit on content. I think we have somewhere in the middle that we need to look at. I think Marvel is in a grasping at straws phase. I think they're doing what they can with what they have, as the defense had said. Legally, they've gotten rights to certain characters that they didn't, and now I think they're going to come forth with some better content. But I think the current state of things is they're just throwing things at the wall to see what works and what doesn't work. I think they've had some misses, but I think both sides have brought forth a lot of light to the content, and maybe opened up some nerd world minds to what may be currently happening and what might happen. So right. I think you have a really hard decision, Your Honor. If you need to take a few moments to deliberate in your chambers, maybe you can throw some nerd graphics up, and you can just take a few minutes, while you decide the case.
Can we answer Moses' question?
Yeah, I was going to say that. Yeah, that's a big
I want to
point.
bring this up because, and this is just some really interesting comments, and I want to thank the attorneys of Sheev Palpatine's court, the officers at the Empire's court, for coming to. Yeah, that's right. We're associated with the Empire. We're an evil court. Yeah, we made you watch the whole thing and then told you that. All right. So I want to address what Moses says here, because this is these are some good comments. What Moses wants to ask, if there is any reason why the X-Men can't be incorporated into the Avengers setup. I believe it will be a whole new beginning. I agree. In fact, I am optimistic about the next phase of Marvel, specifically for the reason that there is more for them to incorporate. Something that we said here today, and this is my time to talk, so I'm going to take my sunglasses off. Something we talked about today is how is Marvel Phase 4 to be judged? I think that's the crux of this question, is what are my expectations of Phase 4 supposed to be? When I listen to the learned words of these fine men of nerdy letters, and I listen to how passionate they are about whether or not they feel short-shrifted by Phase 4, I think back to cases where, maybe the proof really is in the pudding. And what I mean by this is, I think that to try and find a verdict here, what I am going to have to do is I'm going to have to look at the second count of the indictment, which is about the Batman. And I need to take that movie, which has been posited to me as a superior movie to whatever else is in Phase 4, and I'm going to have to actually watch it, which I've been putting off mostly for the purpose of developing this verdict. And I'm going to have to comp it to something in MCU Phase 4. My thinking is that it's probably not fair to use a Spider-Man movie for this purpose. And the reason there is simple, and it's that Spider-Man is owned by Sony. So this is not a fully MCU movie. And so I rule that that's not, technically speaking, strictly speaking, admissible as the best MCU Phase 4 movie. So on a sidebar here, prosecution, can I ask, if you were to say, hey, this is the best thing Phase 4 did, I want you to use this to comp it to Batman, what would that be?
It would have to be Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange. Defense. What would your answer be on that?
I would probably say Shang-Chi.
Okay. All right. So I watched Doctor Strange like last week, so that's not extra work for me. So I rule that's admissible. What I'm going to do this week is I'm going to watch Shang-Chi and I'm going to watch the Batman. And then, pursuant to the instructions of a bailiff, which I thought, in addition to being attractive, you have many good ideas, Mr. Bailiff. I think about those ideas often. Thinking about them right now. So I will be back. We'll be back next week with an episode with the verdict. I feel like we have to exonerate. We have to view these documents. It's part of discovery to complete our investigation. And if we didn't do this, we would not be nerds and we would not be being specifically tough about something that nobody asked us to be. And that's just how it is in this nerd court. So that is my ruling, is that there is going to be a continuance and we will have a separate, we'll get together again and I will deliver the verdict. If everybody wants to watch those movies this week and come prepared and fight over my verdict, whatever. But that's how it's going to be. Are there any questions from the attorneys?
So I'm disappointed we didn't get a verdict today, but I anticipate the verdict come next week. I'm anticipating everyone
everything
tune in to see.
I knew that I was going to catch some flack for this, and frankly, I'm not going to hear it. This is a court of nerd law, and nerd law says that you can't decide something until you know about it. So I'm going to watch the stupid movies, and that's how it's going to be this week on Nerd Court, because my justice is firm and swift and fair, just like nerd justice is supposed to be. Any last words from anybody about this before we go?
No, but before we go, real quick, just to kind of tie in Moses' point, which we appreciate again, I agree with him, and I think we talked about this. We talked about this actually on our review of the Thor and MCU last week, I believe, and that's basically like, I don't think we can incorporate the X-Men for the fact of and me, DP, and Dushi spoke about. I just think that there's not enough time. I mean, they can do Disney Plus series. Do we want to do that? But to introduce the X-Men the way we would want to see them, I think that's almost like a Phase 6, whatever. That would be like after Phase 7, after the Kong Dynasty or whatever we're calling that.
You're gonna have to wait. It's going to be a wait.
You have to wait because there's so much to tie in with mutants. Yeah, there's so much to tie in with mutants,
and then once mutants are there, you can just. What's great about mutants, and this is another thing I'll say in my verdict, and why I agree with Moses. We need mutants in the MCU because mutants do away with the entirety of tedious, stupid, repetitive origin stories. Right. Because after they're there, the answer is they was born like that. Ta-da! Right. That's it. It's done. And that's the way I think it ought to be. And since I'm the judge, I am going to be the final word on that one. I'm excited for this new project and assignment that I gave myself because I like attention, and that'll give me more attention. So that's going to be it for this week on Nerd Court. Make sure you go to our website, nerdcyclopedia.com. Make sure you subscribe to our Facebook group. And make sure you subscribe to our podcast so you can get more episodes of Nerd Court. Make sure to join us next time when we will discuss the second count of the indictment, whether or not the proof is in the pudding, and if the Batman would be the best of the movies in MCU Phase 4. I will rewatch Shang-Chi. I have just rewatched Doctor Strange, and we'll be back.
All rise as His Honor, the Steel City Hitch, leaves the room.
All right, I'm not actually going to get up, but I'm gonna roll the tape on this end. I'm sorry, I'm just rolling it. I'm rolling it. We're still live. We're still live.